What's up, guys, and welcome back to the intro webs. My name is Kale Brock. I'm a surfer and a filmmaker, and today I'm going to talk about 7 of the most common intermediate surfing mistakes being made out in the surf, stopping you from becoming an advanced surfer. Importantly, I'm going to show you how to fix them. Let's go. Winter is coming. It's cold. If you're new here, my name is Kale. I'm a filmmaker and a free surfer, and here you'll find all sorts of epic surf content like tutorials to help you surf better, important reviews, and more. So subscribe down below and join me on Instagram at Kale's Broccoli. Let's talk about intermediate surfing mistake number 1. Numero uno. It is only surfing in the bottom half of the wave. This is a major problem and hindrance for so many surfers simply because they don't know they're doing it in most cases. Even advanced surfers make this mistake even if they know it is a mistake. It's often only when they come and get filmed during a coaching session that they really see how much it is affecting their speed generation and turning potential on a wave. I've spoken about this before, and the more optimal way to ride the wave is to move in and out of the power zone, this place here, the upper half, by using your front hand and your eyes very consciously to look and point to the lip as soon as you get up, and then point back down the wave once you're up there, and so on. You can start to find this rhythm again. By taking a dozen or so waves in a row where your sole purpose is to just move in and out of this zone with flow, just like Charlie is doing here, you can quickly rebuild that framework that'll have you shredding in no time. That one little exercise has such a big impact on all the surfers that I work with, and one of the most common forms of feedback that I get afterwards is just how easy their surfing felt after applying it. It's huge. Now, let's talk about the next mistake. Looking only in one direction. You know what I mean. One direction. If we watch great surfers move on a wave, we should notice that their eye line and their head movements are fluid and changing throughout that ride. This is because the eyes lead the way when it comes to directional changes. Many intermediate surfers know this intellectually, but don't realize they're applying it incorrectly or suboptimally until, again, they see themselves on camera. By trying maneuvers whilst only looking down the line, we immediately restrict that turn to about a 90-degree rotation. If we actually allow the head to open up throughout the turn, we can increase that potential to 180 degrees or more. Cure for this ailment? I find that prescribing people to look back at the whitewater during their turns forces them to increase its intensity and arc, and their technique seems to improve immediately. It's pretty simple, right? Well, the next mistake that we're going to talk about is linked in with what we just talked about. It's not opening up the shoulders enough. It's having a big impact on your surfing. Let's fix it now. Our eyes are the first thing which initiate the turning process, but it's really our shoulders that allow the real work to be done. The emphasis to be placed, that exclamation mark we are so attracted to in a great turn. I often have to tell surfers to open up the shoulders more because they are typically quite closed off and always have the chest facing forward and the arms the same. In order for a turn to be fully complete, the head, eyes, and shoulders must drive the rotation from the upper torso through into the hips and then into the feet and the board. I like to say that the leading arm on your forehand and the trailing arm on your backhand act as anchors, pivot points for our turn to arc around. The more closed off our shoulders are, the less arc and torque we can expect in our turns. You can fix this by establishing a rule that your arms will stay on their respective sides of your body so long as you are standing up on a wave. This means they cannot cross over like this. The right arm must stay on the right side of the body and the left must stay on the left. This will initially look a little bit dorky, but eventually you'll find a positive carryover into your turns where opening up the shoulders actually feels natural and effective.
Announcement. Mistake number 4, please.
Right away, sir.
A pandemic is spreading amongst the surfing community of poor explosion and drive off the bottom. Experts are suggesting that the only cure is to compress a lot more.
The vernacular that I use for this, it's how much oomph you're putting into it. And generally speaking, I need to see more oomph. If you, like everybody else right now, needs more oomph in your surfing, then you're going to need to work on your transition from coiled spring compression mode to extension mode.
This just in. It's all in the hips.
And speaking of erect bananas, the cure for this one is we're going to thrust our hips up the wave and at the lip as we come off the bottom of the wave from our compressed coiled spring position. An indicator that you're as low as you need to be is you should be able to reach out with your trailing arm and skim it across the water as you bottom turn. On your back end, this will be your leading arm. By thrusting those voluptuous hips at the lip, they'll come under you, meaning your center point should shift back down the wave, which will cause a turn to occur. The only problem with this is that surfers find it hard to repeat over and over again because waves are elusive and aloof. So I recommend all my clients grab a Smooth Star surf trainer to use over and over again in the car park to work on putting some oomph into their hip thrusts.
I mean, if we didn't know each other before, we certainly do now. Mistake number 5 is riding the wrong surfboard.
I see far too many intermediate surfers on sharp, tiny potato crisp surfboards built for the pros when instead they'd do much better off with a little more volume throughout the board. More volume means more buoyancy, and more buoyancy means an easier and faster paddle. And that, my friends, means more waves for you. As much as I love watching the pros tear apart waves to the beach, their board needs are pretty different to ours. I recommend getting something overall a little rounder and more forgiving, and only downscaling to sharper outlines in solid surf or when you feel like your board is holding you back from doing the surfing you want to do. I'll have some more on this in the future, but for now, speak to your local shaper.
Mistake number 6, rushing. Slow down.
We all get excited, I get it, but if I had any true and timeless piece of advice for all surfers, it would be to slow down. A lot of the surfers I teach are just generally in a rush, which is great because they're enthusiastic, but it also tends to have a negative effect on your surfing. By rushing through things like the pop-up or rushing down the line instead of flowing down the line, we end up ruining our aesthetic and compromise our technique. Take heed of guys like Kaloe Andino, who surfs incredibly fast but has an overall flow and lack of franticness about him. Felipe Toledo the same. Even though he's one of the fastest surfers on the planet, he seems to move very gracefully across a wave. Whenever I feel my surfing is rushed, I prescribe myself 1 to 2 sessions on a twin fin surfboard or some sort of alternative shape, even a foam board. Anything that's going to force me to actually adjust my surfing to suit the wave, not try to force the wave to suit my surfing.
I'm curious, George. I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a...
How are we doing so far? Good? Great? Awesome. That's what I expected. I've got one more for you. It's mistake number 7, and it's following the crowd. Only surfing where other people are. Guys, don't follow the crowd.
So many surfers simply follow the crowd. And oftentimes, with good reason, crowds will naturally gravitate to where the good waves are. But this comes at the expense of finding freedom in the lineup to experiment and progress. Countless times I've rocked up to a beach and spent an extra 2 to 5 minutes just looking at the surf for uncrowded spots to paddle out at. I can tell you at least 7 times out of 10, I find a better alternative to paddling out to a spot with 10 other people. And I often find that great surfers do the same. So the message is, think independently when you check the surf, when you read the surf report. Get in tune with your local area and know when and where the good waves are going to be. With more space, you'll feel less flustered and much more likely to implement great surf technique. Well, I hope this one helped you out, guys. These 7 mistakes that I just spoke about form a large chunk of what I do as a surf coach, but also here on the channel, and I can certainly explore each one more in depth. So after subscribing down below and hitting the like button, leave a comment and let me know which mistake that you identified with most, and also how you went in your next surf after you approached it differently. Did it make a difference? Did it help? Did it make things more confusing? Let me know down below. Hey, guess what? Ad revenue is worse than ever right now. Creators like myself are earning less and less per video, which means we need a little bit of extra support. If you've benefited in any way from the channel and you want to give back in some form, if you can, then head to some of the links in the description below. I put some links to products that you can buy. You can use my discount code broccoli, or if you're ordering any of the stuff that I've talked about throughout the videos, just mention broccoli in the order notes, and any little help you can give really makes a big difference. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram as well at Kale's Broccoli. I'll see you guys soon. Yo. A pandemic is the surfing community.
I'm curious, George. I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse. I'm ready for war. I'm coming for throats to turn to a ghost. I need to know everything.